2015's Justice League Gods and Monsters reimagined DC's greatest heroes in a colder, more callous, and some might say more realistic world. Where the mainline heroes stood for hope, justice and truth, here the heroes stand for authority, vengeance and survival. They were all significant departures from their traditional counterparts, but of the three, I'd say that their Batman was probably the boldest departure. Where Batman is traditionally Bruce Wayne, who became a figurative creature of the night after his parents were murdered in front of him as a child, this Batman is a literal creature of the night. And he's not Bruce Wayne, he's Kirk Langstrom, usually known as the Man-Bat. But he's unlike any version of Kirk Langstrom that we've seen before. Kirk Langstrom is the only established character to be part of the Justice League. Hernan Guerra, their Superman, was an original creation, and Becca, their Wonder Woman, was so overlooked and underutilized that she may as well have been a brand new character. In the mainline continuity, Kirk Langstrom's transformation into the Man-Bat came about after he attempted to give himself powers to rival Batman, although this was later retconned to him trying to cure his own deafness. Over the years, he has been a savage beast, a hero in his own right, and even a private detective. Despite being a relatively obscure comic book character, Man-Bat has appeared in most major Batman cartoons over the years. He famously was the villain in the pilot episode of Batman the Animated Series, On Leather Wings. Here, he was presented as an addict fighting against his addiction to power, and was an occasional ally to Batman. In 2004's The Batman, he was a deluded fool who wanted to surpass Batman, but eventually became a willing ally. And in Beware the Batman, Langstrom was turned into the Man-Bat against his will, but he made the most of it by joining Batman's group of outsiders to help save Gotham. So there's a recurring theme there, the thin line between being a monster and a hero. And Justice League Gods and Monsters took that even further by making Kirk Langstrom the Batman of their universe. Rather than being a hybrid between man and bats, he's more of a vampire, drinking the blood of the wicked to sustain himself. While he does still protect the innocent, he preys on the criminals. His transformation is both literal and representative of moral decay. This makes him the inverse of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne lost his parents and found purpose. Langstrom lost his humanity and was cursed with endless hunger. That inversion says something bleak about heroism, that under different circumstances the same drive for control and understanding can produce a predator instead of a protector. The tragedy of Langstrom's transformation is that it was meant to be a cure for his lymphoma. Instead, it made him immortal by turning him into a bloodthirsty parasite. He had been a gifted scientist studying at the prestigious Gotham University under a scholarship from Lex Luthor, alongside some of the brightest minds in the country. Will Magnus was one of his peers and his closest friend, along with Magnus's girlfriend Tina. The trio were incredibly close to the point that they almost feel like a throuple, although not necessarily in a sexual way. Tina was in a physical relationship with Magnus, but she seemed to have more of an emotional connection to Langstrom. Magnus is obviously aware of Tina's feelings for Langstrom, but he doesn't seem overly bothered by them, because he cares about him too. Langstrom was an oddball who would have forgotten his own head if it wasn't attached, and he really was reliant on his friends. But what he didn't tell them is that he was suffering from lymphoma, and that the project he had thrown himself into was supposed to cure him of the disease. He was trying to beat the cancer with a serum extracted from bats, but it kept failing. It's only when Langstrom combined his serum with Magnus's research into nanomachinery that he started getting results. While Langstrom was initially hesitant, he ultimately trusted the science and his friend, who injected him with the new serum, and waited. Tina openly objected, advising caution, but Magnus was confident of his own genius. While it did cure his cancer, it had the unintended side effect of turning him into a vampire. Magnus and Langstrom's hubris is the film's original sin. Scientists trying to play God and then recoiling from the consequences. And what's worse, they try to rationalize their sin, to explain their monstrous behavior away and make it seem logical. If you squint a little bit, this version of Batman is a grotesque echo of the DCAU Batman. They're both brooding loners with scientific minds and a clear sense of right and wrong. But with Langstrom, all the moral lines have been blurred. In the promotional short Justice League Gods and Monsters Chronicles, Twisted, we're shown a scene that feels pretty familiar. Batman investigating a kidnapping turned murder. Only this time the culprit isn't some tragic figure or misguided thief, it's a cannibalistic Harley Quinn. Where the DCAU's Batman might have subdued her and sent her back to Arkham, hoping she could be treated, Kirk Langstrom's Batman laughs at the idea and drains her dry. There's no talk of second chances, No quiet moment of pity or restraint, just the finality of death. Langstrom's Batman is an executioner born of guilt and hunger. Every kill is a sentence carried out without appeal, and every criminal is reduced to a meal. In this world, there's no redemption, only consequences. It doesn't matter to him that Harley Quinn is clearly insane and not in control of her actions. The moment she harmed someone else, she became fair game. It's almost as if Timm and Alan Burnett took their version of Batman and ran it through a blender with the works of Nietzsche and Mary Shelley to create Langstrom. The gods of this universe have shed their ideals and become monsters of their own making. Langstrom's tragedy is that deep down he still believes he's doing good, even though he's probably the most monstrous member of the League, and that belief might be the most dangerous thing about him. He's also indirectly responsible for the world-ending threat at the centre of the movie. After the transformation, both Magnus and Tina are horrified, while Langstrom tries to make it work. Ultimately, Tina blames Magnus for allowing it to happen and can't believe that he, the supposed smartest man on Earth, can't figure out a cure. And that guilt and anger festers. When Tina confronts him for what must have been the 1000th time, he lashes out, hitting her across the face. But she falls and hits her head on a table, dying instantly. That single tragic moment is where Magnus's compassion finally curdles into something rotten. He can't undo what he's done to Langstrom or Tina, so he decides to rationalize it instead. His grief becomes the seed of a philosophy. If humanity is fragile and broken, then maybe it needs to be rewritten. Similarly, if he, the smartest and therefore greatest man on the planet, can do these terrible things, then humanity as a whole must be improved. Magnus's entire arc is powered by frustration and shame. He was the genius who failed. He failed to save his friend, failed to save his wife, and failed to live up to the myth of his own intellect. When Tina died, rectifying that failure became an obsession. He tried to rewrite the world so no one would ever suffer pain again, or rather, so that he would never have to feel it again. There's an element of jealousy too. He's envious of Langstrom not just for his emotional connection to Tina, but because he found some grim way to live with his curse, while Magnus cannot. The murders of the other scientists, the framing of the Justice League, the hive mind plan, they all stem from Magnus's need to prove that his science can still make things right. When Langstrom confronts Magnus in that finale, it's more of a battle between brothers than between a hero and a villain. His existence is the living proof of Magnus's failure, and Magnus wants to believe that he can fix what he broke, even if it means erasing free will. Langstrom, meanwhile, has accepted his curse and has made it mean something. Everything in Gods and Monsters spirals out from this tragedy. Magnus's guilt is the core that every major event orbits. Langstrom's vampirism, Tina's death, the League's persecution, and Magnus's genocidal utopianism. It's the ultimate Promethean tragedy. His scientific genius leads him to steal fire from the gods, and he burns for it. The Gods and Monsters universe keeps circling this theme. People reach too far. Langstrom with vampirism, Magnus with his nanotech, and General Zod with his dictatorship. And in the process, they become their own monsters. Despite the title, Justice League Gods and Monsters isn't really about divine power. It's more about what happens when human pain goes unanswered. Kirk Langstrom and Will Magnus both tried to transcend their suffering, and in doing so became the very monsters they feared. Langstrom's curse made him immortal, but it also made him the embodiment of guilt that can never die. Magnus's genius made him a god, but a god with nothing left to believe in. They both tried to outthink their pain, and both ended up being ruled by it. And really, that's the core of Gods and Monsters. Wounded men trying to outrun their pain, only to be ruined by it. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my channel members. Everyone who was a member at the time of this video's creation is listed on the screen right now. If you want to see your name amongst all these wonderful people, join the channel now. next time. This Friday, I'll be returning to the world of Superman the Animated Series to talk about the creepy alien parasite, Unity. And next Monday, if you thought I was done with Kirk Langstrom, then think again. This time I'll be talking about the version of Man-Bat seen in 2004's The Batman. Hope to see you then.